things in the saddle that maybe you have learned a long, long time ago that you have since, forgotten, and it's always good just to go back to the basics. Also, we're going to be sending this video to all the members to kind of also show people all the great things that you can do with a horse, and to hopefully build some interest in what we do here. So this is my Arabian. His name is Tristan. He's 18 years old. Some of you guys know about the Arabian breed. They can be fiery, they can be hot, they can be flighty, they can sometimes run before they think. Those are some of the things that people say about them, and those things are true. I've had him since he was a foal, and I got him from a horse rescue, even though his sire was a world champion halter horse, but he ended up in the rescue, and that's how I was able to get him. And he has been a challenge for me, and he's taught me so much in the 18 years that I've had him. And he's taught me a lot about horses and how, all the things that they're capable of doing, some things that are dangerous. He's jumped out of corrals, he's tried jumping out of arenas. When he gets nervous, he just wants to explode. But as you can see, he's really calm and mellow right now, and this is not because he's drugged or because I worked him hard. In fact, he hasn't been ridden in a few weeks, but because he's just semi-retired now. But I've worked really hard through mostly groundwork and just connecting with him on the ground and meeting his needs and being the horsewoman that he needs me to be, so he can be calm and confident in new situations. With horses, and again, you in the audience know this, but some people may not know this. With horses, if you're not confident, if they don't trust you as a leader, they're going to try to take care of themselves, and that means move their feet, run you over by accident, even nip or kick at you if you're in their way. So building a relationship with them through these skills on the ground is super important, and then it really just transfers to the saddle. A lot of amazing riders here get on their beautiful high-level horses, talented horses. They go in the arena, they perform high-level things, beautiful maneuvers, they show, but maybe they're not able to take their horse on a trail ride because their horse is, spooky, or maybe they're not, sometimes they have a hard time being with them on the ground if a horse is in a new situation, new environment, even at shows sometimes, or loading in the trailer. There's just so many things that we can get better at with communicating with them, and also communicating to them that we're in charge without being harsh, So there's definitely a difference between abusing horses, which none of us here do or want to do, and being direct with them and letting them know that even though you're soft and gentle, but you're also strong. You're a strong leader, and you'll do whatever it takes to get them to, to be safe, to not hurt themselves, and to not hurt others, and to not hurt you. So my horse is standing here calmly, not moving his feet. Now and then he's neighing, talking to the other horses. It's his first time here. But in the past, when he was younger, I would take him places and I couldn't keep him still. He would be running around me in circles. If I got on him, I was afraid he was going to fall over because he was always looking to the outside. He would scream and not pay attention to me. So that's not the time to teach them, right? The time to teach them is when you're at home, you're calm, they're calm, and you teach them how to pay attention to you, to keep an eye on you. See how his ear's not on me? Now it is. Yeah. I want him to always keep an eye on me, keep an ear on me, so that he knows where I'm at all times, so he doesn't accidentally run me over. So that's what this course is going to be about. We're going to do a weekly series on Thursday mornings, and some of it is going to be on the ground, and some of it is going to be in the saddle. And eventually, once we have our groundwork in place, and we know everyone's safe, and we know how to read our horse and get them to a calm place, we're going to ride. We're going to ride together in a group. So that requires a little, knowing where you're at, knowing how to move your horse sideways if necessary, how to back them off, so nobody runs into each other, so everybody's safe. We're going to learn how to ride together through obstacles, and eventually go out on trails together, and then eventually go off property together to some really beautiful places. Stop. All right.
I hear you.
Okay, excellent. I'm just going to keep going, and then I'll talk over the first part. I'll just do a voiceover.
Yeah, good.
All right. So I think that's kind of it as an overview of what we're going to be going over. Each workshop is going to be progressive, based kind of on what we did before. I mean, not entirely. Like sometimes we're going to go over things like getting your horse ready for the vet and the farrier. That's kind of like outside of the progression in the course. However, those things are going to be built upon the groundwork and like learning about how to move each body part and things like that. So we encourage people to come to most of them so you don't miss out on like an important lesson. But if you miss one, you can always talk to me. You know, we'll see where you're at. You can always do a private lesson as well to get caught up to the group. All right, so what I'm going to do now is something that I used to do a lot with my horse when he was excited and kind of worried and anxious, is I would just walk him around a bit. And I already did that a little bit this morning, but walk him around and kind of show him everything. But as I'm going, I'm not going to let him walk into me or step into my space too much. I'm going to protect my space. And then I'm just going to take him through some of these obstacles just a little bit to show him some of the obstacles. And then I will come back here and we'll kind of see what's on the list. We'll have Joanne read off some of the list, and then I'll just demonstrate those things. And then after a little while, I'm gonna go get Rocky. He's one of our Las Campanas horses. He's a pony, and he has not had a lot of groundwork. So we're gonna bring him in here, and you can see kind of a difference between a horse that knows the stuff versus a horse that doesn't. And then we're going to have Joanne go get her beautiful mare, and we're going to have her demonstrate some of the groundwork that she has done, which is a lot of the similar things that I teach that we're going to be teaching in this workshop. So we're going to have her do a little demo for us with her beautiful horse. Good boy. You're awesome. So if he walks a little too close to me, I'm just going to ask him to move off of me with my hand. Okay, so I'm checking him out to see, is he going to be spooking at that stuff? I don't want to be riding around it if he's going to be spooking at it. I'd rather be on the ground. Good boy. That's good. Okay. Obviously not afraid if he's putting his mouth and his feet on it. And I'm not going to punish him for touching things because he's curious, and I encourage that. So this is a brand new tarp. He's never seen this tarp, but he has seen tarps. So I'm not pushing him. I'm just letting him explore and seeing where he's at. And he's asking me, see how he just looked at me? He's like, what would you like me to do? So I'm going to say, well, if you want to walk over, go ahead. Good boy. See him licking and chewing? His tongue is coming out of his mouth. That, most of you know, some of you may not know, that's a sign of acceptance and relaxation. So when a horse, as a prey animal, when prey animals get worried or scared, like zebras on those National Geographic shows, you watch the zebras and then you'll watch the lion approaching, and the zebras are eating, but they sometimes will stop eating, hold their breath, hold their, chewing, because they want to hear the predator coming, and they want to be ready. So that's what horses do, and that's what people do too sometimes. Even though we're not prey animals, if we get nervous or scared, we kind of stop breathing and get tight. And so as soon as he relaxes, he's like, oh good, I didn't die, and he licks his lips and breathes again. All right, so I've showed him the obstacles. He's obviously fine with them. He has seen obstacles a lot. Some of your horses haven't seen some of these obstacles, like tarps. One of the things we're going to do in one of the sessions in the future, we're going to put water on the tarp, so we're going to have a water crossing that can trigger some horses. But these are all the things we're going to encounter on the trail, and so we just want to Perfect. Awesome. Thank you. Let's just go over the 4 body zones. I'm going to ask him to move over so you guys can see him. He's like, what are you going to do? Check. Sound check. Okay. All right. So the body zones. Okay. No worries. So the body zones. And some of this stuff is based on Pirelli natural horsemanship, groundwork. So I may refer to some of the names and terms I'm going to be using from what they teach. That was my background a long time ago. I've since then moved on to some other training, but I still think there's a lot of relevance in what the Pirelli groundwork teaches. And so we're going to just use some of their terms and give Pat the credit. So we have, let's just say 4 zones to the horse. Okay, so we have zone 1, which is the head and neck. Okay, so when I say zone 1, this is what I'm referring to. And that, then we have, actually zone 2 is the shoulder. So we have zone 1 right here. Zone 2 is the shoulder. Zone 3 is the middle of the horse, and that's where we sit. That's where we do a lot of our cues when we're riding. Zone 4. And then sometimes I'll refer to zone 5, and that's behind the horse. That's whatever's going on behind them. If something comes up on them, into each zone, okay, which is something that we do when we ride and we don't even realize it. We use our hands, our seat bones, our legs to move all the different zones together to come up with something beautiful, you know, all the different maneuvers. But on the ground, we like to break it up so it's a little easier for us and for the horse. And even teaching young horses, you really kind of want to break it up for them. So if you want to move apart a zone, you can move them either by applying direct steady pressure. Okay, so just like this. If I want to move the front end, I'm going to push here. Good boy. If I don't want to, or I'm not able to touch him and I still need to move him, I can move him by moving the air around him, and that requires some energy. Okay, energy is not a foo-foo concept. It's something that you guys all know is a real thing. It can be tested, it can be measured, and so when you create energy, a horse feels it. In fact, they communicate with energy most of the time amongst themselves. So if I want to move him without moving his body, I'm going to create some energy by doing rhythmic motion, so sending energy waves at him, right? So I'm going to simply come at him and move the air around him, okay? There are times, like if he's in the cross ties and he dances around or he steps on something, I just want to be able to move him without having to get that close. And obviously you can use various tools, like I have this training stick here. You can use a dressage whip, you can use a flag, or even just the end of your rope. So if your horse isn't listening to your body language, I know, buddy, you can use a tool. Okay, so for example, if he didn't respond to this, I can do this. Now, see how I'm directing it at the zone that I want to move? I'm not looking at the middle of him. I'm not looking down at his feet or the ground. I'm not looking somewhere else. I am looking at the part that I want to move and also looking in the direction that I want to move. If I want to move the hindquarters, it's the same thing. Zone 4. I can move the hindquarters by applying gentle pressure to the flank area. And I try to, when I do groundwork, when I'm teaching people, I want to try to influence the parts where your leg might go to kind of just help them transition to what we do in the saddle. I believe all of you, at least watching, do some high-level stuff. You can move your horse's body in various directions and ask them to do things with your legs, but this is how you teach it. You ask right here. I'm just going to shorten up my rope a little bit just in case. I'm going to just apply gentle pressure to behind where my leg would go. I know you can't see it now, but there we go. Good boy. Now if I want to move his hindquarters without touching him, and we're going to be going over all of this with your horses. I'm going to look at the part that I want to move. He's already moving it. I know, hold on, I'm talking. And I'm going to basically walk at that part. So I'm going to take my hand with the lead rope and point at the part that I want to move. Good boy. Okay. So now, zone 3, that's where we sit. That's where we influence them from the saddle. That part is a little bit harder to move because you actually have to move the whole horse, okay? But once you can move zone 1 and zone 2 easily without like pushing on them or pulling them around, then you can move zone 3. And that would be like for your leg yields or side passing for Western riding and stuff like that. So come here. So if I want to move him sideways, say we're in a cross-dizer and he's stalled and he, moves into me and he's too close, I'm just going to, my intention has to be to go sideways. I can't be thinking about other stuff because it gets confusing to them. But I'm just going to put a little bit of pressure. There we go. Good boy. Now, if I want to move him without touching him, I'm going to create some energy and picture him going that way. So I'm simply going to make sure that he doesn't go forward, and I'm just going to ask him to go sideways. And he's like, I'm not sure what you want. Good boy. There we go. Good boy. Very good. So I created a little bit of energy just with this hand, and he went sideways. Eventually, and this is not something we're going to do in the beginning, maybe towards the end of the workshop, you can teach your horses, once they respect you and respect your space, and it's easy for you to get them off of you in case of emergency or in case they're being dominant, then you can teach them to come towards you sideways. Okay, this comes very much in handy when you're mounting, whether you're on a mounting block or whether you're out on the trail and you have to get off for whatever reason and there's no mounting block. You can just find a little stump or a hill and ask your horse to come towards you. If there's some kind of, tight spot where you can't move them physically and you just have to have them come towards you, that really comes in handy. But you don't want to teach this in the beginning because a lot of horses are going to be dominant and you don't want to teach them to come towards you. That's something that it's a privilege that they that they get once they're a true partner to you. Backing up is something that most horses don't do well enough, and that can really save them and save you at times, to back up very, very lightly. So here I can back him up off of the halter with rhythmic pressure or with steady pressure. I can also back him up from a distance, okay? So I'm going to create some energy here. And this is something we're going to teach all your horses if you come to the workshop with your horses. Good boy. See how he's asking questions? His ears were at me, but then he's also looking around a little bit. He's obviously curious about his environment, but he's also paying attention to me. And because I'm talking a lot, he's like tuning out a little bit because he's like, I don't know, blah, 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 blah. This is all he hears. So those are the zones. Do you have any questions? No? Let's see. So as one of the things I wanted to talk about, and I've already mentioned it, how groundwork pertains to riding. And like right now I have a stallion at home I'm just going to be starting him under saddle. He's never been ridden before. So I'm doing all the groundwork with him and preparing him. So when I get on him for the first time, he will know what leg pressure means. He'll know what, energy forward and slowing down means, like exhaling with my breath to slow him down. I'm ground driving him. So when I get on this horse for the first time, he's not going to get that scared not knowing what I want. He's already going to know that a lot of things we've done on the ground that we're going to do now under saddle. And if you have any problems under saddle, even with your horses that are very well trained, like they get sticky leg yielding, or they don't want to, you know, get off their forehand, they're really heavy, or they have a hard time getting on their haunches and rounding and lifting their back. All those things, we actually can help them on the ground. And also, another reason why groundwork is awesome and excellent is if you or your horse get laid up for medical reasons. That happens, you know, as you know, all the time. We have surgeries, we have injuries, the horses get injuries, and then the vet says, no riding for 3 months or whatever, and then, you know, but they're going crazy in their stalls, being super bored, and so groundwork is something that you can do with them. Now, what you don't want to do is to teach them these basics when they're injured, right? You want them to have this stuff down. See how relaxed he is? I'm not having to teach him anything. If he were to get hurt and could only, you know, be hand walked or whatever, I can do a lot of these things with him on the ground, and he's going to actually get quite stimulated mentally and have a good time, and his training won't digress as much because we can do a lot of this stuff. So, for example, I'm going to switch tools here. I'm going to use my dressage whip. How are we doing on time? 10:37. Okay. Come here. Come here. What's that? Okay, awesome. So I'm just before I just go and do stuff to him, I want to make sure he's okay with my equipment. This is what Pirelli calls a friendly game, and basically it's that your horse is not afraid of you and is not afraid of your tools. Because when you're fearful or anxious, obviously not afraid, when you're fearful or anxious, you can't learn, okay? When, as little kids or even as adults, if we're in a stressful situation where we're anxious, and we could be anxious because we're afraid of the environment or the person that's teaching us, or maybe because we're afraid of looking bad, like humans do that, horses don't do that. You know, we're afraid of looking bad. We're afraid of not understanding something and having people judge us. So those thoughts, if you have those thoughts, you can't learn, okay? Horses have thoughts like, I hope I don't die. I hope that doesn't kill me, okay? They are on the menu. They're a prey animal. So even though they're domesticated horses, they have a great life here at this beautiful barn. Innately, horses still think I might die, okay? And we sometimes forget. We're like, oh, it's just a puddle. And they're like, I might drown. So just understanding what they're coming from, that they're not like us, they don't think like us. If we can, look at his eyes are getting soft. If we can understand them and go, no, let me help you to show you that this is not going to kill you. But just remember that they really have like serious fears, you know, and to them, they're real. So I'm just going to show him my tools. He's fine with them. Okay, he's not afraid. If I picked up a whip or a flag and he was like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to say, let's go train now. I'm going to make sure he's okay. And I might do that by rubbing him with it. You know, can I touch him everywhere with it and so forth. He's obviously fine with this. When I pick up the flag, you'll see him get a little more alert, because no matter how much I do with the flag, he always gets a little bit worried about it. But now I'm going to go around and ask him to do some stuff that you might have done under saddle, like leg yields and things like that. Wake up. Good boy. So I'm just going to go around this way. And I'm going to walk with him in zone 3 where I would be riding. In the beginning of groundwork, you guys may have to be over here at their shoulder. Okay, but I'm going to see if I can influence him from where I'm riding. So let's say I want to go a little bit sideways, do a little leg yield. I'm just going to basically do it in my body, and he's going to follow. If he didn't follow, I'm bumping him with my elbow a little bit, and if I need to, I'll use my stick. Okay? You can also do your shoulder in from here. It is better to do it if you have a bridle on, but you can just turn your shoulders. As you're going straight with your pelvis, you're turning your shoulders, and there's your shoulder in. Okay? We can do all kinds of fun things to test our skills with our horses, like, for example, taking them through these cones. So you got to look where you want them to go and influence each body zone, which usually in this case is zone 1. Okay. Other things that are going to really come in handy, whether you're riding here or riding on the trail, is going through natural things. Like, for example, we might go for a ride at Pecos. There's a couple of river crossings. You can go over the bridge, or you can go through the water. So you need to make sure that you have control of your horse between your legs and your hands. Also, backing. You know, it's easier to teach them how to back on the ground than it is under saddle. So see how he got worried? How can you tell that he's worried? His head came up. Because he's been mellow, chill, like, oh, I've seen this a million times. And now he's like, wait, you want me to what? To back up, and there's something behind me in zone 5, right? So instead of being like, oh no, you're making me look bad, you better back up. I was like, okay, wait a second. Look at it. We're going to go in between. So I'm picturing it for him. And to support him, I'm just going to guide him with the halter. And slow. So he's like, I can't do it. So this is great. I'm really glad that he's actually not being perfect all the time. So we're going to move his hind end. Good boy. A little more. Right there. Going to go in between. I don't think I've actually ever done this obstacle with him, so this is really good. Can I control his hind end from the front? Good boy. So this is kind of like backing out of a trailer, right? See how careful he's being? Good boy. So believe it or not, see how he's getting confused? He's getting stressed because this is what's considered a squeeze, okay? So there's things on both sides and behind him, and for a prey animal, that's a trap. So innately, genetically, from a long time ago, when horses were, in the wild, or even some domesticated horses, who maybe had like a high prey drive, being into like a trailer or a small space means that they could get trapped and die. Okay, so this is a nice little test of how much does he really trust me, and how much control do I have, right, over him. So we're going to try it again. Because this may seem tedious to some people, and some people might say, when am I ever going to need this? But it's a great test of what's not working and what you can work on. Pay attention. See how he's going crooked? Even though I'm trying to get him to go straight. There we go. What a good boy. Okay, so that was a little bit better. So how many of your horses, raise your hand, do you think you could get them to back through something like that? Yeah, maybe. I mean, I would have thought he would have done it no problem, but he got worried, right? So he's we're gonna, in this workshop, we're gonna find all these little holes, I call them, to try to find them and fix them, so that when what hits the fan, you don't have to try to go like, oh, I guess he doesn't do that. One of the things that's really hard for horses, and that's something that is definitely going to come up on the trail, is having to back them through an obstacle. Okay, and we haven't done this a lot, so let's see how he does. Now, see how he's like, I really don't want to have it directly behind me. So I'm going to influence zone 1 to back him where I want him to go. Good boy. And take your time. Good boy. The key is to, obviously not to just complete the obstacle, but to teach your horse to trust you and to be calm. Okay? So we're using obstacles to come up with situations that are learning situations. One thing that's kind of cool to do, and it again will show you how much they trust you and how much they feel safe with what you're asking them to do, is to go sideways over something. Because again, that could make some horses panic. Good boy. And he could, if he was afraid to do this, he would just basically walk through me, try to walk into me, or back up. So we've obviously done this before. This is not where we start. We start by backing them up, teaching them to be light on the halter, teaching them that they never, ever, ever get to go into your space, like, and push into you. And you'll see with Rocky here in a second that, you know, you may have to get strong with them when you're teaching them because they're big. I have 3 horses. They live together. They only get separated for meals. And one of them is a stallion, one of them is this gelding here, and one of them is a little baby. He's 8 months old, okay? So I get to learn and watch how they interact with each other. And it can be rough. They bite, they kick, they push on each other, they nip, and that's how they teach each other, like, like, this is my space, don't, you know, come into my space. And so it's perfectly okay for us to make contact with them if necessary. We don't want to abuse them. We don't want to hold them down and hit them ever. But if you need to move them and they don't move, which he does, but you'll see with Rocky, it's okay to tap them. Okay, it doesn't hurt. Good boy. All right. So I think, let's see, I'm just going to play with him a little bit, and then I'll show you how he picks me up on the fence or a mounting block. And then I think I'm going to go get Rocky so we don't run over time. So, come here, bud. Let me get my other stick. It's good to have several different tools for different things. Like, obviously, you guys all have dressage whips, but these sticks are great. They're not a lunging whip. They're not flexible, so you have a lot of control over them. You can get them from any of the natural horsemanship websites, like Pirelli, Beck Brannaman, or just like Clint Anderson, or just on Amazon probably. So, all right, buddy, you ready? Let's go. Let's do a little trot. So I'm going to ask him just to trot around me a little bit. And this is something I might do just before I get on anyway, because unless I just rode yesterday and my horse is super calm, I want to see how he's feeling. Is he feeling excited? Is he feeling explosive? Is he stiff on any body part, legs, so forth? Now, is he connected to me when I ask him to walk with just my body language? There we go. Good boy. When I ask him to trot by lifting my hand, will he trot? Good boy. If I ask him to switch directions and keep trotting, how easy is it? Is he light? Is he running into my space where I have to back up to get out of his way? Definitely don't want to do that. Can you influence him by walking at him and have him move away? So if I'm walking, he needs to give me the space that I'm requiring because I'm the leader. I don't get out of his way, he gets out of my way. If I want to stop him, boy, I look at his hindquarters and I move that zone away, which means the front end comes to me, and that's how I'm being ridden with a halter. So I don't even have it hooked up to the other side because I don't need to. You know, if I needed to go the other way, I could just do that. Now I'm not going to push him. I'm going to wait till he's ready. There's a saying that says when it comes to obstacles and horses not wanting to go through them is nose, neck, and then maybe the feet. I think Pat Pirelli came up with that one. He has all these cool sayings. Yeah, so whatever obstacle it is, First, they have to be confident with their nose, then their neck, then their feet. Good boy. So all those things that I was showing you, that I was doing, good boy. On the ground, you can repeat them under saddle. I'm not going to jump the barrel because I'm not there to jump there, and I don't jump in the Western saddle because it's awkward. But anyway, this is something to look forward to. You know, I can walk, trot, canter him even without a bridle, because it's not about the bit, it's about him respecting my direction and being light and being confident. And I wouldn't get on, by the way, unless he showed me all those things. So that's something to also is really, really important, and that's something we're going to talk about in every workshop, is reading your horse and reading yourself and where you're at. If you're a nervous wreck for whatever reason, you have a bad situation, you know, something happened at home, or you have a lot on your mind, that's not the right frame of mind to be getting on your horse. So we're going to do actually some breathing before each session, just so, see how he just lowered his head? As soon as I took a breath, he's like, thank God. Because I get, you know, tense and nervous talking in front of people too. So it's not like I'm all sitting here super relaxed, and he can feel all of that. So, but he is a partner to me, and where I may have some tension, he's filling in for me, where I used to do that for him a lot. And now he's kind of doing the same back for me. Can we back up? Oh, thank you, but can we back up? So if you can't back your horse on the ground, it's going to be hard for you to back your horse under saddle. So it's not about the tools, right? Are you ready, Tristan? All right, we're going to go get Rocky now. Good boy. And now I'm going to, hold on, buddy. I'm going to ask him to round his back and collect a little bit. See his hind legs? He's short stepping. So that's the beginning of piaffe, okay? See how his back is rounding? His haunches are lowering. What a good boy. He's very good. So we do a few steps and then we go forward. So it's a little bit harder to do it away from the fence, but just for the camera, he might do it. We'll see. Okay, will you do it for me? It's a little harder because they want to move away. Good boy. See, look at his frame and see the rhythm. So this is the very, very beginning of piaffe. He's not a dressage horse, and I'm never going to, you know, teach him how to do like high-level stuff like that. But it's just nice to have, and it's good for their back. It's like Pilates for horses, right? So it's good for his back. It's good for his core. You know, I love dressage maneuvers for various things that are just good to make the horse last a really long time. Not to, you know, become hollow back, not to become sway back, and to have that flexibility in his hocks and stuff like that. Even though I ride him Western, I can do a lot of dressage things because they're really good for him. So that's it for this guy, unless you want to see anything else or if you have any questions. Yes. Yeah, what Jose was saying just for the camera is, just as a reminder, everything that we do on the ground and that we're going to be going over in this workshop will help you whether you ride or don't ride, whether you ride high-level dressage or jumping or Western, or whether you just have a pony and you know, drive or anything. This will just help you to be safer and more handy with your horse and have them be a better partner to you. Especially in situations like they're colicking, or they're injured, or there's an emergency and we have to evacuate, or you're on a trail and something happens, you know, like there's a cougar, like you just never know what might come up. I've seen some really bad wrecks myself, that I've had myself, that somebody had that I was riding with. We're not going to get into that too much, but I can tell you every single thing I've gone over today could save you and help you. And just to also have your horse enjoy being with you a little bit more. And not just feel like you're always working hard and teaching them things, but just being around them and playing and having fun and having a good time. Because that's really what most of us want. I know some people are just, you know, professional and they just train and then they put the horse away. But a lot of us enjoy the relationship, and that's what we want. So that's what this workshop is going to be about, is safety, but also having fun and getting some new tools and helping improve whatever you do with your horse under saddle. Yeah. His mom was white, so whenever he sees a gray horse, he's like, Mom, Mommy. I know. All right, so can you go get Rocky? Okay. So I'm not going to do anything. I just want to observe what's he going to do. I've never done groundwork with this pony before. And this applies to big warm bloods and little horses and ponies. I had a Holsteiner mare personally that was 17.3. She was a big girl. And when I got her, she was barely halter broke. And she was a brood mare, so she didn't, you know, hardly pick up her feet. She didn't know anything. And so I had her for a few years and got her to like training level dressage and just kind of was learning with her. And so it doesn't matter if they're little or big, this stuff will apply, okay? So just by looking at him right now, he doesn't, to me, when I'm assessing him, he doesn't appear very extroverted. He seems more introverted to me at the moment. And that doesn't mean that he doesn't like to go. I know this pony likes to go because I've ridden him. But he also blew out, right? You guys heard him? So, and licked and chewed, and he's taking his eyes off of me, okay? So what do you think that says about him? Yeah, he's a pretty confident guy, isn't he? Okay. He's confident enough to stay here with you guys watching him. Remember, prey animals think they're on the menu. So he's like, what's going on? What's going to happen to me? I have a tool here. He took his eyes off of it. He's not moving his feet. He appears confident. Now, sometimes, I'm going to let him look at my tool, friendly game. Sometimes a horse will not move their feet because they're too scared. Okay, they freeze. Some horses freeze and some horses flee, right? Fight or flight, or freeze. So don't assume that they're confident just because they're not moving their feet. Because those introverted horses that freeze will explode. And back when I was a full-time trainer, and I would hear this a lot, and people would say, they would call me because something happened. They were like, my horse bucked me up on the trail, or my horse ran off on the trail. He exploded, and they always say it came out of nowhere. He was calm, and then he exploded, okay? So they obviously missed some cues, and one of the cues with an introverted horse is that frozen body language and no blinking and no licking and chewing. Now, he's not quite doing that. He is moving his ears, he is blinking, and he licked and chewed earlier, and he's willing to sniff the flag. But just because he's calm, like, for example, I wouldn't, like, just get on him right now, or I wouldn't put a kid on him, because we don't actually know what he might do. So I'm just going to continue the friendly game, or just getting him used to the tools. Do you see how I'm actually gathering up on the rope here? I want to make sure the rope is not too long, so long that he can turn away and put his butt to me, okay? So even though I'm giving him quite a bit of rope here, I'm always aware of the fact that if I needed to turn him to me and move his butt away from me, I can do that, okay? Now, zone 1. Pretty confident. I would say he's probably seen flags before. Zone 2. Zone 3, where I sit. Zone 4. Zone 5. This pony has probably been there and done that. I know we bought him as a kid's horse, so he's probably had a lot of training, despooking, desensitization, stuff like that. And so the question is, how is he to yield to you and to give you your space? Because that's something that I've noticed Okay, that's confidence. He's chewing on my tools. Again, I don't punish them for checking out the tools. I don't want them to put their mouth on me, but I don't mind if they check out the tools. Good boy. If this behavior became more like now he's like really biting it, I'm just going to make it to where it's not so comfortable. I'm not going to smack him for it, okay? I don't want, every trainer has a different philosophy. I want my horses to be more of a partner and to have a two-way conversation with me, but still respect me as a leader. So I don't want them to be like a car or a motorcycle or, you know, a tool that they're not allowed to ask questions or talk back. I just want them to be respectful. So, like a teenager. Teenagers can be disrespectful because they're, you know, coming into their own and they have hormones and things are going through their mind and they're trying to become adults. So they can become a little disrespectful. And so I don't mind questions. Like, so there, I didn't smack him, but I was like, if you're going to chew on me, I'm just going to move you a little bit. By the way, we're moving zone 1. See how hard it was to move zone 1? He's very dominant and confident. So he went to chew on my pocket because I have some treats in here. And I was like, well, let me just move you around. Instead of going, whack, we don't bite, or that's my pocket, you know, which would make him go, okay, she's one of those, I better just go introverted again and not ask any questions. I'm like, let me just get you busy, okay? So there isn't, you know, a cookie cutter method for every horse. Literally every horse will be different. But like going back to the teenager, right, which some of you have had kids, some of you maybe have been around teenagers. They can be disrespectful. They can be lazy. They cannot want, you know, have an opposition reflex. You ask them something, they want to do the opposite. But you want them to basically be respectful and polite even if they don't feel like it. But you also want them to be not afraid to ask questions and to give you their opinion respectfully. And that's kind of how I want my horses to be. I don't mind if they give me their opinion, but I want them to be respectful. And I owe that same thing to them. I need to be respectful to them and not be, you know, really rude to them and not to be sloppy and, you know, not pay attention to what I'm doing either. Okay, so the thing that we were teaching, I was showing you how to move the different zones. I'm going to come over here where everybody can see me. So I can already tell he's a dominant little guy. He's confident and playful. So there he's going after my pockets because he knows that people keep treats in their pockets. So I'm just going to keep him busy. Can I move zone 1 with just my fingers? So I'm going to put my fingers on kind of the neck and head area right here. And I'm going to see, can I move? How much does it take? Remember with my horse, it didn't take very much. I would just kind of barely pushed on him and he moved. So he's not moving, so I'm just going to push a little bit more. There. It took quite a bit, but he moved. Okay. So the other thing you can do is use your tools. You can use the back of your dressage whip or your stick. If you don't want to be so close to them, if they're a little nippy or whatever. Can I move? Can I move zone 1? He says, no, not so much. Because that means that I lose the game. Good boy. So with a lot of your horses, even though they might be gentle and sweet, you may have to put a little bit of pressure to teach them to be light. Okay? You're not going to hurt them. Good boy. You're not going to poke a hole through their neck. Okay? You need to teach them that when you apply steady pressure, yes, good boy, that it's time to move over. And then they can be really fancy like my horse was. Good boy. Can you move again? No? He says no. So when I watch, there, good boy. And rub. When I watch my horses playing together and they want to move, one wants to move the other, they always go after the head and the neck or the flanks. Because they know those are kind of sensitive areas that tickle more. They're much more sensitive. So that's what they go after when they bite. So what do you think, what happened there? He just shook his head and then licked his lips? What do you think he was doing or saying there? Yeah, Jose says he's accepting. He licked his lips, which usually means like, okay, I get it. I learned that lesson or I'm willing to. Joanne, what did you want to say? Yes. Yes. And the shaking of the head. He kind of shook his head sideways. Yes. He was relaxing. Yeah. So it's like shaking off the tension. He was like, oh my gosh, that was a little crazy. You know, because I'm dominating him. And he doesn't like it. See, look at him. He's like, I'm going to nip you and your stuff to make you move. And I'm like, I'm going to move you because without punishing him, I want to teach him that I'm a good boy, that I'm in charge over his body. Oh, good. He wants to. Yeah, he's a little frustrated. This pony does not like to be told what to do. And I him a couple of times, and he tries to be the boss when he moves his feet 100 miles an hour, which is opposite of how he is right now. See how he's trying to nip on me? So I don't want to smack him. I'm just going to be like, well, if you want to run into my stick, go ahead. Okay? So there's ways of teaching horses to be respectful without making them afraid to talk to you. If a horse puts their mouth on you, like they're going after to try to get treats, and let's say they're going after my tool here. Go ahead. So if he were to bite this again, I'll just say, here, let me help you, and I'm going to stick it in his mouth and make kind of a commotion in there. So then he thinks twice about just like biting my stuff. But I don't want him to be afraid of my tools, okay? Now, moving his hindquarter. So in the workshop with your horses, we're going to teach them how to move their neck and shoulders, their front end from both sides and make them light, okay? That's really, really important. Basic stuff, especially if you've ever been stepped on by a horse. And then they plant their foot on you, and then they put their weight on it. Yeah, that's when that comes in handy, right? Can you please move over? So that steady pressure, moving their front end, really, really helps when they're on your foot. So again, can I move his front end? I'm putting a little bit of pressure behind the jaw. He's just walking off, so I'm going to say, don't walk off. Yes, good. Much better. That felt a lot lighter. Okay, now hindquarters. When you're teaching them to move their hindquarters, make sure that your rope is so short enough so that you can easily move their hindquarters away from you if you had to manually move them. Okay? Let's say that. Good boy. Let's say that my rope is that long. Okay, and I'm over here by his sides to kick me. I have nothing. I can't turn him away from me. So make sure that you're safe and that your rope is just barely long enough so you're not pulling, because I'm not trying to pull on him, but I can easily move his hindquarters. So now I'm going to apply steady pressure to his flank area and ask him to move off the pressure. And this is really going to come in handy when whoever's riding him, if they want to do leg yields or, disengage the hindquarters. So right now I'm applying, here, let me move him so you guys can see better. So I'm going, come over here, buddy. See the camera? He goes, that's why I'm doing what you don't want. One of the strategies that prey animals do to predators is out-frustrate them. And our horse, and this is no joke, like they literally will do that until the zebras or the antelope will like bounce around or move around, whatever they do until the predator's like, forget it. Obviously, I'm not going to win this one, and they just leave. All right, so here we go. Friendly game. Make sure my rope is nice and short, but not pulling. I'm going to apply pressure here and wait. He doesn't even have his ear on me. He's not paying attention to me. So I'm going to apply harder pressure. I want to make sure I can tip his nose if necessary. There. Okay, he licked his lips. Okay. He's frustrated because I'm bossing him around. He's not used to it. But that's okay. Now, what did I do when his feet moved? Okay, by doing what? By doing nothing. I never moved. Yes, he released himself. Okay, so this applies to riding. When you ask your horse to do something and they do it, don't follow them. Don't go like, and also don't like take everything off. Just be what you were being and do what you were doing, and the horse will learn. So I applied pressure. He stood there and pushed against it until in his mind he released, and then he released in his body, and he gave himself a break. So we're going to do it from this side. He's really not a bad horse example. He's actually he's gentle, you know, he's a little bit dominant, which is fine, you know, that we can use that. He can be really playful, but he's not being bad at all. So I'm going to rub a little bit here, make sure my rope is short enough so I'm safe and I can pull him away, his hindquarters away. I'm going to apply steady pressure. What are his ears doing? He's paying attention to, I'm touching him back here. I'm actually touching his intestines, like through the muscle. So they're like, And sometimes if a horse is not used to being touched there and a vet comes to check them if they're colicking, they can kick. I've been actually kicked in the head once by a horse when I was really close there trying to listen to the gut sounds, somebody else's horse. And I put my ear on their flank, and luckily they just got me with their knee and not with their hoof. So I'm putting pressure here quite a bit. He's ignoring. So I'm gonna get a nice steady stand. There we go. So what I did, first I was doing this when he wasn't paying attention. I locked my elbow onto my hip, and that gave me a lot more strength. And as soon as I did that, he felt it and he moved away, and I stayed. So he gave himself a release. Okay? So now that's steady pressure, moving them with steady pressure. Now a little bit of what you already saw earlier when I was asking his front end to move. So I'm just going to create a little bit energy here. See how he's ignoring it? He's calling my bluff. He goes, you won't touch me. Okay? So some people might get triggered by this and think that it's abusive. Okay? The reason why it's not abusive or mean is because I said, if you don't move, I'm going to touch you. Okay? So lots of rhythmic. So rhythm creates relaxation. Okay? That's one of the first principles of dressage. Okay? The, what is it? The, something of training, the ladder of, yes, the pyramid of training, rhythm, relaxation, contact, right? So again, rhythm creates relaxation because the horse knows what's coming, okay? So it's not like, I'm gonna ask you to move, whack, you didn't move, okay? Look at him being alert now. Friendly game, don't be afraid of my tools. Intention, energy. What a good boy, and rub. Don't be afraid of my tools, it's not about the tool. But it helps to have a tool because otherwise I would be on top of him using my hand, and I can do that, but I'm a lot safer over here, okay? If he decided to throw his head, like a lot of big horses will throw their head to kind of be like, get away from me, human, and they can really whack you and hurt you. Okay, so let's try it again. I'm gonna get my intention. I'm picturing him moving over there. Rub him so I can still see he's not afraid of my equipment. Create a little bit of energy. He still called my bluff, so I touched him. Good boy, you don't have to overreact. Good, look at him licking his lips. He goes, I learned something. Come here, buddy. So it doesn't matter if they're a little tiny pony or if they're 18 hands. You can move their neck, and we're gonna do that with your horses as well. It really doesn't matter how tall they are, okay? So here we go, intention. Again, my focus now needs to go from talking to you guys to the horse, right? Because to him, he hears me, 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 and then all of a sudden I'm doing something to him. So now I'm gonna focus on him, picture him moving over. His ears are not even on me, he's looking over there where he lives. So I'm just gonna say, well, I'm coming. So it's his job to pay attention to his leader, right? Good boy. This time he didn't overreact. Good boy. Okay. So we will in a workshop do that from both sides. Okay. And he got lighter and more handy. You know, he's a pony. He is mouthy. He's playful. He's dominant. He's like, well, you're going to move me with that stick. I'm going to eat that stick. So I'm going to go here. Let me help you. Let's float your teeth. This is what dentists do when they float their teeth. And then I'm going to say, here, you want to chew on that some more? He's like, no, I think I'm done chewing on that. Thank you. So instead of being like, oh, you bad mouthy horse, whack, I'm like, well, let me make it so it's not so comfortable for you to chew on my equipment without punishing you. So now I've preserved the relationship and I still got my point across. Open, and you don't have a lead rope anymore, you're still communicating with this hand as though you have a lead rope. And I didn't do a demo with Tristan in a round pen. Maybe another time I'll bring him again and show you some really cool stuff that he does at Liberty. But it starts here. So this hand is going to ask. So I'm going to look at his hindquarters and point. Okay, he doesn't know what that means. In fact, he's like, let me lead you around. So I'm going to kind of ignore that, and it's going to be on him if he misses my cue, okay? So I'm going to look at his hindquarters. I'm going to point at his hindquarters. Now, this is me asking, and now I'm going to use rhythmic pressure to move his hindquarters, okay? It's on him that he wasn't paying attention. He was chewing on the rope. So here we go again. I'm taking the hand that holds the lead rope, pointing at his hindquarters. Ha! Who decided to pay attention? What a good boy. Okay, now I'm going to switch my tools over here so I can be ready. Look who's not chewing on my lead rope and paying more attention. So now I'm going to look at his hindquarters. Okay, he says, I'm not sure what that means. And rhythmic pressure. You can do this with your dressage whip or any other stick. Good boy. Okay, look at his hindquarters. Take my hand over there. Oh, what a good boy. He goes, yeah, I know this. I was just testing you. All right, what a good boy. So now let's make sure he still isn't afraid of my tools. Because I don't want him to move whenever I pick up a stick or a flag, you know. That's not what we teach. Good boy. Get my hand. Get my intention. Ah, he goes, now I'm going to use my game against you. He just blocked me. Did you see him block me? And he's nipping me. So here we go. It's a little bit boring for him. Now the next time he goes to block me, which means walking in front of me, I'm going to be like, you can't block me. Okay, let's see what happens. Did you see that? He went to block me. Now he's little. It's really hard to like wiggle into his space because he's so little and short. Much easier to work with bigger horses. What a good boy. Again. Ha! What a good boy. That was very, very good. All right, let's show him some tools, and then Joanne can go get her horse. Look what a cool, confident guy he is. He wants to put his mouth on everything. I love it. All right. So I'm going to ask him, I'm going to give him some rope and ask him to do whatever he wants. He can go around or he can go through. I don't care. So obviously this doesn't hurt. And obviously he's like, I'm going to out stubborn you and not move. I'm not even asking him to jump it. I'm like, do something. There. So did you see how calm he was? Waiting it out and building up that tension and acting really calm. So he was like freezing, right? And then he kind of exploded a little bit. Not bad, but he would have run off if I didn't put some pressure here. Okay. So of their mind. Sometimes it's unconfidence, sometimes it's stubbornness. We don't know. We just kind of have to become, you know, as good as we can at reading them and kind of knowing. It explode again. Much better. Good boy. Okay, so if I've never ridden this pony, which I have ridden him because I assumed he was, you know, safe and he was fine. But if I didn't know this pony at all, I would do this before I ever rode him because I want to know how he's going to behave and react to various situations. And now I know when he's unsure about something, he freezes and doesn't do anything and then kind of goes like, oh my gosh, and explodes. So good boy. Okay, so when I rode this pony, and I didn't ride him with spurs or a whip, he was really dead to my legs. Can you see that on the ground? Dead. He's like, whatever, you can hit me, you can kick me, I'm not going to listen to you. Now if I put spurs on, the next time I ride him, I will put spurs on. It's not to hurt him, it's just to get his attention. You know, but we can teach him to be light and paying attention. Oh, look at that. That was really good. And licked his lips, right? So I taught him something new here earlier, how to disengage his hindquarters, and he was happy to do it now just to get out of that pressure situation over there. All right, now we're going to go walk on the tarp because I don't think we did that. That's better. He's actually moving off of the energy without freezing. What a good pony. Okay, so this is all feedback. Instead of me micromanaging him right now, I want to see how does he react when he sees something scary. Because nothing's been fazing him too much so far. He's like, I don't care, whatever. It's one of those kids. But now he's like, oh, that's new. So instead of me trying to save him, rescue him, micromanage him, I'm just giving him some rope and seeing what's he going to do because I want to learn about him. So I know how he's going to be under saddle. So I like that he's exploring, but sometimes horses will grab a tarp and then they pull on it and then they freak out and they clinch and it's a wreck. So I'm not going to quite let him do that just yet. Normally I don't pull him away from being curious. I just don't want him to scare himself and undo everything we just did. So I'm not going to allow him to chew on it. Nose, neck, maybe the feet. That goes with jumps, pulls, water crossings, literally everything that they don't want to cross. So a lot of people don't give horses the time that the horse needs to truly like experience something. They're like, okay, good, now go. Okay, because we're busy, we have places to go. If we have that kind of attitude, and I know sometimes we are busy and we do have places to go, but try to have a little bit more time when you come see your horse and you're teaching him new things, because even though he's standing on it, he might still be a little bit freaking out on the inside. We already know he goes internal and then he explodes. So I'm letting him process. And the way that I know he will have processed is if he like exhales, blows out. He doesn't seem to be too afraid. He's trying to eat it, but I asked my husband, do we have it? Where's our tarps? And he goes, I have a brand new tarp in the truck. It's for the quad. I'm like, okay. So we'll try not to put holes in it, but we'll see. Ah, it took him that long to actually relax. All that fake dominant and confidence, that's all like bluff. Now he just processed. Okay? Now there's softness. And it's contagious. Now, back feet is a whole other issue. Zone 4 and zone 5 may not be as confident as zone 1 and 2 and 3. What a good boy. That's very good. Well done. So do you see, I don't know if some of you can see the subtle difference in how he is with me leading. What can you tell? What's different? And how is he showing that? Yes, less anxious, Jose said, being more willing to what I'm asking. What it feels like to me, because I feel with horses, is that he's soft and he's like relaxed and he's giving me a space between us. He's not rigid and he's not pushing into our air bubble here. So before, I felt like I had to protect myself from him a little bit, like he might walk into my space. Now he feels respectful to my space. He's still playful and mouthy. That's his personality. If he was with another horse, he would be doing the same thing. This is not something that I'm going to punish him for, but if he were to get really mouthy, and we're going to address mouthiness individually as well with each individual horse, but we don't smack them. If we start smacking them each time they bite, it actually becomes a game. Horses, and I've seen this with my horses, they go back and forth, back and forth. So it's like bite, smack. Like if he bites, I smack, and he bites, I smack harder. And so it becomes a game, and they're like, oh, it's actually kind of a fun game. So instead, if you don't want them, and biting is very, very, very complex thing. It could be for several different reasons, and you have to address it differently depending on what reason it is. A lot of horses here, I've noticed they demand treats because we love them and we give them treats. And we want them to love us, and so it makes us feel like they love us when we give them treats, and they are happy to see us and to get treats. And there's nothing wrong with treats. I give treats. I use treats for training. I give treats for reward. But there's a way to give treats and when to give treats. And if a horse demands treats, like I've walked by horses on the cross tie and I come up to say hi, and they put their ears back and they step forward and then they go for my hands or my pockets, like treat now, okay? I don't put up with that from people or from animals, right? And you wouldn't put up with that from a human. You wouldn't be like, hey, give me some money now. You wouldn't give me money. And but, you know, like, what if you wanted to make me happy? Would you give me money? No, probably not. You would think I'm rude and you wouldn't give me anything. So same with horses. You know, I want to be like, hey, would you like a treat? Here you go. If I have a treat, which I have one in my hand here, and I want to give him a treat, I never just give him the treat, okay? With my horses, and I have a stallion and I have a baby, they can be very mouthy. I always give them my hand first. So they need to smell before they take, okay? Then they're not allowed just to, so everybody has a different technique. If a horse goes to bite at my fingers to try to open my hand, I'm going to pinch them. That's my technique. It's not that I'm punishing them. I'm just saying, like, that's my fingers. Much more gentle, right? Okay, now he can have a treat. So there's many different techniques. I'm not smacking him. His head didn't come up in the air. I'm just saying, this hand belongs to me, not you. You don't get to take something from me. I get to give it to you. And so pinching is something that they understand because, see how gentle he's being right now? Because other horses use their mouth to teach, like mares teach babies. Like if the baby's nursing and it's nursing too hard, the mare will bite them a little bit gently, like just grab them like you're being harsh, you know, like be gentle, be respectful. So horses understand that, especially when it comes to their mouth. So now he's not being rude. He's kind of being like gentle. I don't have to hide my fingers and move my fingers away. So there's a difference. But some horses nip because they're anxious, okay? Some horses nip because it's an old habit, and some horses nip because they know if they nip, they might get a treat. So we can address, whoever shows up to the workshops, we will address nipping if that's something that they're having a trouble with. But usually we have to look at why they're doing it and when they're doing it, and then we address it that way. So do you have any questions so far? No? Joanne, do you want to go get your girl? And our horse is really sweet and very nice on the ground. So, Joanne, whenever you're ready, would you like to use the carrot stick? Yeah. Okay. Yes, I was going to bring music, but I couldn't get my speaker. So Joanne is going to demonstrate kind of what she would do if, say, she has been away and she hasn't seen her horse yesterday. So she's going to start with the friendly game to make sure the horse is still okay with her and her tools. And really just feel her horse out and see where her horse is at, because the horse will be different in different situations. When we're different, they'll be different. When the environment is different, they're going to be different. So you can't always expect them to behave the same way. So she's just checking her out, and when she feels like the horse is ready to go to see some obstacles, she's going to go on and go do that and show her all the obstacles and observe her where she's at. And then, but before she does the obstacles, I'm actually going to have her demonstrate how she moves her horse's front end and hind end, zone 1 and zone 4. And we'll see a third horse doing kind of the same thing and see how she is, and you guys can observe how different she is from the other two. Isn't she beautiful? She is such a pretty girl. So Joanne is using a tool. She's using the stick. Don't be afraid to give her a little bump. Rhythm creates relaxation. Yeah, so use your rhythm. Use rhythm with the stick, and she'll relax, and she'll do what you ask. Good. And it doesn't have to be perfect, and, we put Joanne on a spot. I kind of asked her to do this yesterday, and what she's demonstrating, really, what I taught you guys today, are like literally teaching kids how do you write the letter A, how do you write the letter B and C and so forth. So then we know, when we go to high school and college, we no longer write out the alphabet. We talk in sentences and use big words. And so Joanne does amazing things with her horse. She doesn't do the ABCs on a regular basis. So that's why this is so excellent for her to review some of these things, because she normally just gets on and goes for miles. And one of the things when I talk to Joanne, I know she's been doing this type of groundwork for many years with her beautiful horse. And because of that, she's now able to just get on and ride on the trail by herself. She goes for miles. She encounters cows and obstacles and things like that. But because of all the groundwork that she has done, she's able to be safe out there and to really understand her horse. And if a horse gets tense or scared, she knows what to do, and the horse trusts her. So that's like reaping the reward of all the groundwork and all the relationship that she has built. So even though this may not look, like the horse is doing it ideally, it doesn't really matter, because it's always a work in progress. So she's going to attempt one of the hardest things, which is backing through in between something. So one thing that you can do, Joanne, is to do it from being really close to her and using your porcupine game on a halter. So that means actually touching the halter and not doing it from a distance.
We'll do it from a distance. We used to do this all the time.
Yeah.
And we don't do it much at all.
Yeah, and that's why it's such a good review, right? Yeah. Because you don't know when you may have to back her through, like a lot of times a trail is going to be really narrow, and you have to back them down the trail, and if they step off, they might go down the cliff. And there's like a mountain on the other side. So this is why it's so important to to see where your horse is at. Okay, and again, this is not about the obstacle. So what she's showing Joanne is that she's unconfident, just like my horse was a little bit unconfident. And that what you can do, Joanne, is if she doesn't do it this time, is you can go away from the obstacle. Yeah, much better. And work on moving those hindquarters and those front quarters. That's very good. So now Joanne changed her technique a little. She got a little bit closer to her to give her some reassurance. do it?
It's fun. She just hasn't done it.
Okay. So I've never, worked with Joanne. She's not like my student, but she has done Pirelli, and so being that the six are the same, I thought she would be a good example to show us that even though it's not a relationship and they're safe together. So watch your lead rope so she doesn't step on it and scare herself. So managing your lead rope and your tools is definitely a skill, and it takes, attention and some skill. And there's a lot to think about when you have a horse to think about. You forget about your equipment sometimes. If they wanted to paw at the tarp, we let them, because that's them being curious. We have a lot of tarps. They're all used by me, but I have like 3 muddy ones next to my round pen. Good job. See if she can get all 4 feet on it. So I've seen a lot of videos and even some live things where horses put their front feet on it and then they go to cross it and their back feet touch it and they just blow up. Because they were not confident with zone 3 and 4. All right, so there is showing you that maybe you got to work that stuff away from the obstacle. Yep, and that means she is more of a dominant kind. So when you add obstacles, that's when you get to see what you can do with your horse. Until then, you're like, oh yeah, I can do all of that. I can move. I can do all of that. And then you get an obstacle, like put their left hind leg on that paper plate. Nobody can do it. So that means you don't have a lot of control over their their back legs. So I was able to get my horse through there fairly easy, but we've practiced that, on and off over the years. Where Joanne has probably done that a lot of years ago, and now she just kind of rides on the trail, so it's good for her. Much better. Wait. They are, so it really requires a lot of paying attention on a horse's part. Not bad. So we're going to do all of that with everyone that shows up, so we'll see how everyone does with cones and tarps, and we end up over there too with bridges. We'll have to see. It's nice having bleachers. We're going to be over there. Okay, that'd be awesome. That's okay, Joanne. Come on back. So now she's going to work on sight passing. Okay, so how did she feel?
She's remembering some of it. She's
Yeah.
still dominant in the shoulders.
Yes.
That's been a problem ever since she was young, but it's a lot better.
So yeah, let's get her over here because she doesn't know Rocky and Rocky doesn't know her. Okay. So it's been a while since you've done some of these things, right? Yeah. Because you guys just get off. So you guys reap the benefits of doing this when you did all the groundwork, all the levels.
Yeah, I had clinics. Would set things up, and it was another person at each one.
Yeah.
Had to do
Like the
really
games.
fast.
The games.
Well, these were like backing up through
Yeah.
the holes,
Yeah.
figure eights and all that. And
Very
we were
cool.
trying to do it all in a hurry. So it's
Yeah. That's funny. I don't like to add the time to it because then we become predatorial. Of course, just sometimes. So, when they're learning, the relaxation in everything that you do with horses, and see how relaxed she is. like her head is below her withers, which means she's feeling safe in her environment and she's feeling safe with Joanne. And even though she like walked over some things and didn't do it perfectly, did you ever feel like she was being unsafe or dangerous? No, she's safe. She's calm. And I'm sure she wasn't like that as a 3-year-old when you first got her.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
She was pretty good.
She was pretty good. She has a good temperament. So do you guys have any questions for me or Joanne before we end?
I think what I noticed is when you had Rocky on the tarp,
Mm-hmm.
and you were really patient, just waited.
Mm-hmm.
You never asked him
Mm-hmm.
to go on the tarp.
Mm-hmm.
You just waited till he went. And
Yes.
It's not a criticism of Joanne, but when she went on,
Mm-hmm.
I saw her pick her stick up
Yeah.
to urge the horse on.
Yes.
And
She
so,
was pawing at it.
is that why you did that?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was
Yeah.
just curious.
I wanted her to stop doing the paw like she did when
Mm-hmm.
he started to
Yeah, biting.
eat it,
And so that would be
'cause
the
then
remedy.
Pick it up and scare them.
Yeah.
That would be how you would do it if they were doing something like that. Matylda, if they were pawing or doing something, you pick your stick up
Yeah.
and move them.
Yes, so that's exactly, we ask them to move. So we ask with the hen with the lead rope, and if they don't respond because she was busy pawing, then Joanne was like, hey, I asked you.
Okay.
Now I'm telling you, right? So she chose to do it. Joanne, so just like with everything, you have to ask yourself why, right? So the horse seemed confident. She was pawing.
Yeah.
And Joanne is like, she's been on a tarp a million times, so Joanne knows her. So she was like, I'm not going to work on confidence because she's confident.
Okay.
But Joanne didn't want to destroy the tarp. She, you know what, let's move on. With Rocky, I had no idea how he was going, like, has he ever seen a tarp before? And so I don't, in the beginning, with an unknown horse or unconfident horse, I don't push them.
Well, that was a really good
Yes.
learning thing.
Yes.
Right there, to see both of them
Exactly.
do it differently.
And that's why it's so fun to learn as a
lot of
group,
people,
because you see every horse do it differently, and we talk about every horse. And then I say, well, how is your horse when he does this or that? Because I don't know a lot of these horses either. So the owner can tell us how their horse normally is. She's normally confident and dominant. That's why Joanne.
Would you like to work with her?
Well, we're pretty much out of time,
Yeah.
but I can play with her for a second, but I don't want to, disrespect people's time and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
So true. So as I was saying, Joanne had mentioned that Arabesque is confident and a little bit dominant. She doesn't appear rude to me like some horses are dominant and rude. She's just confident in herself and is like, see how she's on top of me? Okay, so I'm going, so she is not so happy to get out of my space, and I didn't go right for the stick right away, right? I first raised my energy and was like, can you back off a little bit? I don't want to have to yield to you, and I don't want you on top of me. Because what happens if a horse is on top of you, it feels really cozy and good and like they love you until they see something over there and they go, what's that? And you get a black eye, okay? So you're not safe with a prey animal with their giant swinging head when you're within the proximity of them hitting you with their head when they see something. Or if she gets spooked right behind her and she jumps forward and I can't get out of the way in time. Okay? So even though she's sweet and cute like a little puppy, I still don't want her on top of me, and I don't want to feel like I have to defend my space. Okay? And this is just a confident, confident mare. So I'm just going to say, I really like you, but I want you over there while I'm talking. See how she licked and chewed? Okay. And that's true. I don't know who I'm dealing with. So I'm getting to know her. Hi. And I don't want her to feel like she can't come be curious. But I also, with a dominant horse, I don't let them just come into my space unless I invite them. With a non-confident horse, I'm going to allow them to come into my space a little bit until they get confident or dominant. And then I'm like, okay, you changed, I change. Okay? So I want to feel like I'm safe in my little bubble here. So, moving our front end, just what we did in the beginning. And again, I'm just going to do this for a couple minutes because I don't want to go over time too much. Hi, baby girl. Friendly game. I don't want to just come in guns blazing like I'm going to boss you around because you're dominant. Like, we're friends. I'm polite. I'm respectful. I want her to feel confident with me. I don't want to break down her confidence or anything, but I also want her to, you know, yield to my space and to do what I ask. Good girl. So I'm going to ask her, she licked her lips, I'm going to ask her to move her front end, and I'm going to just ask her by moving my energy, but I'm going to move it one hand at this area and one hand at this area. These are the two areas that horses will nip each other to make each other move, okay? So here we go, and look where I'm going. Okay, did you see me touch her with rhythm? Yeah? Because I went, I'm coming, and she stood there. So if you're in the middle of a road and somebody's pulling up really slowly, are you going to wait till they run you over? You're going to yield, right? Same with a horse. We want her to yield when it's clear what's coming. I'm going to move her away from the post so that she doesn't feel like she's being trapped. What a good girl. So I'm going to ask her to move over again. She's so curious. I love it. Here we go. See how she lifted her head? So I lifted my hand. Now, her shoulder is there. Huh? So she goes, surely you won't run me into the post. So just because she decided to go through the posts doesn't mean that I'm going to quit. How many horses do you know that you ask them to do something and they're like, well, I'll just get in a place that you can't ask me? This is prey animal behavior. They're really good at outsmarting and frustrating a predator. So if she decides to take me over there, even though I didn't ask her to go over there, I'm going to keep asking until she yields. Because my goal is to have her plant her hind legs and move her front legs. And right now, what she's trying to do is to move her head, but keep her shoulders from moving. So she's dominating me with her shoulders, which is what a lot of horses do. So if that happens again, I'm going to use this hand to go rhythm, 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 and give her a little tap. If she lifts her head, good girl. Good girl, much better. Okay, so I changed techniques. I'm actually, yes. There. Okay, so she threw everything at me in the book. Backing up, not moving, moving her neck but not her shoulder. Yes. And she's really sweet, you know, this is just, so again, I'm going to ask her to move over. Don't go forward. Don't go forward. So backing up is not the greatest. There we go. Good girl. Don't go forward. Good girl. Much better. Much better. What a good girl, Bess. You did good.